Hey, Grace House Churches. Hopefully you have enjoyed dinner, and now we can have a conversation about Ephesians chapter 4. So, quick reminder, the first 3 chapters of Ephesians are all about who you are, and now the next 3 chapters are about what we do or what is worked out of us in light of who we are. And so the transition statements in verse 1 of chapter 4, where Paul says, "As a prisoner of the Lord, then I urge you to live a life worthy of the calling you have received." So he frames this idea of like, you've been called. He uses the Greek word kalesis, to be called out, and you've been called to put it in the church, which is the ecclesia. So you were called out to be set apart in a group of people who are set apart. And that's a universal calling, and that's for everyone everywhere. Now, calling is an interesting word where I think some of you may say, "Josh, I'm not called." Well, in Ephesians 4, you are called. You're called to be with Jesus, to become like him, and to do what he did. That's universally true. You're called to obey the one another's of Scripture. You're called to follow Christ to make disciples. That's for everybody. But then, after that portion, he moves into what's known as the apest, which is where you see Jesus giving gifts to the called out ones. And these gifts are the gifts of apostle, prophet, evangelist, shepherd, teacher. And so the apostles, like the sent one, they're pioneering new things. The prophet are the truth tellers, discerning God's will. The evangelists are sharing the gospel and inviting and recruiting. The shepherd pastors are the comforters, the connectors, the ones that really like allow people to feel seen and loved and known and cared for. And then the teachers, they clarify. They make complex things simple. And so all these giftings are given to the church, which means you have one of these, multiple of these. And you should know that about yourself. And so these gifts, in combination with your talents, your natural abilities, your spiritual giftings from 1 Corinthians 12 and Romans 12, they all come together to recognize, to honor this truth that you've been made uniquely by God to use your life for his glory. I don't know if you think about that often. I don't know if you know those giftings inside of you, but that's what the Bible's telling you. You were called out and you were gifted so that you could leverage your life for his glory. And so I gave you a few practical things at the end that help us tell each other the truth, keep each other from false teaching, because that's the next section of verses, that these gifts are given so that we would not be tossed back and forth by the winds and the waves of false teaching. And it allows us to recognize a few things. And number 1, it's know your gifts and passions. Like, do you know what you are? We joke that you may know your Enneagram, you may know your Myers-Briggs, you know your astrology sign, which isn't as valuable. But do you know your giftings? Do you know how you test? And do you know how you're wired? And then secondly, serve widely in light of your giftings and see where you bear fruit. Where do you serve that God really blesses and honors that? Because in this particular passage, we're not looking for faithfulness, we're looking for fruitfulness. All of us are called to be faithful. The question is, where are we fruitful? When we do that thing, it works. When we do that thing, God blesses it. Thirdly, allow the church to speak into it. Ask your friends, ask your house church, where do you see gifts in me? What's my superpower? What am I the best at? Help people have access to your life so that you can be honest about it. In Acts chapter 13, the missionaries are called by God and confirmed by the church. And that's the picture today, that the church confirms the calling even though God gives the calling. And then lastly, trust God's timing. Like, wherever you are is where you're supposed to be. That's not the question. You're right where you're supposed to be. The question is, are you maximizing your gifts for his glory going forward? And so church, I look forward to you having this conversation so that we can protect one another from false teaching. We can serve in our giftings, and all of that together will allow us to live a life worthy of the calling we have received.